Hey everybody, welcome to the Value Add Podcast. I am your host EQ, and this, like every other episode, we have a dynamic guest who I personally know and have been inspired by, and they have actually added value to my life on my journey towards becoming my best self. And I am sure that they will add value to you as well. I've known this young man now, I can't even tell you how many years, but many years, I think close to a decade. And I have watched him grow and learn and evolve. And I can tell you, he is nothing short of impressive. And so I'm not going to try and give you his story. I'm going to allow him the opportunity to introduce himself. And so without further ado, please welcome to the Value Add Podcast, Mr. Deangelo Duncombe.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure to be here.
AKA Dapper. Man, it's so good to have you on. You know, you and I go back and forth quite often. I think out of everybody who came out of that Alpha Male group, you're one of the people that I've consistently stayed in constant contact with. And, you know, I just love watching you grow on your journey, man. Yeah. And so for those who may not know who Deangelo Dapper is, I just want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Right. So thanks again, man, EQ, for having me on the show. But with much brevity, I'll say that Deangelo Duncombe. I consider myself still a propelling professional, now a full-time entrepreneur, even though, you know, would have had businesses established over the last decade. However, you know, I would have recently transitioned from corporate, being my last place of employment being Central Bank of the Bahamas, where I was a part of the Human Resources Management team. And before that, of course, I would have spent a full 15 years jumping from a number of commercial banks, be it RBC, Commonwealth Bank. Was in retail for a little bit with AML Food Store, where I was the HR person responsible for managing the Cartwright brand. And of course, you know, I've always had my businesses, be it Dapper Entertainment, where, you know, we do full audio, lighting, production services.
Right.
And then, you know, I have my human resources consultancy firm.
Right.
Because, of course, HR is my passion. It's what I spend the majority of my corporate life doing. I have a master's degree in human resources as well, which I would have obtained over the last, I think, 2 years. And my most recent venture is Innovative Developments, where we do complete construction, home renovations, remodeling, post-construction cleaning, and commercial cleaning.
Man, you see this big smile on my face, right? Because I mean, I just love it, man. I love it. You know, I love the fact that you have not said you haven't boxed yourself in. You said, you know what, I want to do this. I have an interest in this. I'm good at this, and so I'm gonna fucking do it, right?
Right.
And I love that. I think especially when we're talking about business, so often we feel like we got to do this one thing, right? And one of the things that I always do is when I think I'm quote unquote doing too much, I look at my my entrepreneur model, right? Like I look at The Rock. Like The Rock is, every time you see this dude, he doing something else, right, you know? And so whenever I think, you know, is this too much? Is it, you know, I say, well, this dude doing everything from acting to you know, affiliate programs to, like, you know, the tequila. Like he's doing it and he's successful.
Indeed.
In all of these ventures, right? And so I say, I ain't never doing too much. And so when I hear a brother like you saying, you know, I got this and I got this and I got this, you know, it does warm my heart, because it's like you can do it all and be successful in various areas of business. So what I want to talk to you about, so give me an appreciation, Dapper, for your entrepreneurial journey, because I know when I met you, you was at the bank. You know, like I remember you was at the bank, you were in HR, and, you know, then I found out, hold on, wait, you know, you have your Dapper Entertainment, you know, your DJ sound lighting, and, you know, as the relationship grew, you know, I found out that you were doing more, right? And so just kind of walk me through, like, when did you start, your first business. Why did you start? And kind of walk me through. And then how did you balance, running your business and working your full corporate job? Like,
Right.
kind of talk me through that.
Right. So the first business would have been, like you said, DAP Entertainment. And that came from just having a love for music. Always loved music. I do have a Jamaican background, my mom being Jamaican. And, after I would have graduated from school, I wanted to venture into the DJing form. And my brother actually invested in my first sound system. Know nothing about music, bro. I talk about purchase it, brought it to the house, all the wires all about. Me and my cousin just figured it out, hook it up. Always had a stock of CDs, and I started to practice. And I'll never forget, I got my first job, which was $150.
Right.
And they gave me $50 down. I had to run them down for the 100. But, it went from there. And yes, you start to do it more, and you get more comfortable in it. And then persons find out that you had a sound system, and then you started to get bookings.
Right.
At that point, Ethan, it wasn't even about the money. It was about the love and just doing it.
Right.
And then, I formed the whole DAP Entertainment officially and get my business license. And the business lied dormant for a while, went off to college and came back. When I came back from school now, there was nothing to do. So this is where I got deeper into it. I started to burn CDs and sell CDs. At the same time we selling CDs, right from in the front of my mom's house, we had the sound system up. So persons would come by and buy CDs. Oh, y'all got a system? We won't book y'all for a party. And, it started to go like that. Boom, got a job into corporate. So then I put that aside for a little bit. But while in corporate, I'll never forget, the banks always having events.
Right.
So I threw it out there. I'm say, hey, we got a sound system on. Whoever y'all paying, we could do it cheaper. Bro, once that happened, I was doing RBC events. I was at RBC for about 7 years, and about 5 of those 7 years, I did the majority of the major events.
Wow.
And then I realized, like, being at the events, I'm setting up the sound, but someone is bringing in lights. Someone is bringing in cocktail tables.
Right.
Someone is bringing, and I was like, hold up. I could eat more of this.
Right.
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 And then it expanded, so I invested in lights. I invested in chairs. I invested in cocktail tables, and before I knew it, the business just expanded to now we're doing major events. Of course, sometimes you collaborate with persons. Like I do collaborate with some persons for major productions.
Right.
But the brand is out there now. It's in the corporate airs. What I did do, it was a time that I did a lot of nightlife events.
Right.
But because I was in corporate, I figure, let me target corporate. And the business has just always stayed in the corporate realm.
That's all.
Which works.
Yeah. No, I mean it makes sense. And if you think about, in the entrepreneurial space, they call that niching down, right? Like you had a target. And I mean, I had a similar thing in terms of, when I started my fitness company, it was like I was dealing with individuals, but I was like, corporate is a hard sell, which is why less people were focusing on corporate. And, it isn't as sexy, it isn't as glamorous, but it was like, okay, well, what can I do to kind of differentiate myself from everybody else? And then, one thing with corporate is that, they can have events, like, they can be doing stuff. So I think that was a really solid move. So that's how you got into DAP, entertainment, right? Now, how did you, and you could kind of, I know you recently left corporate, but give me an idea, because you're running this business, your entertainment business, but then you're also working a 9 to 5.
Right.
So how were you juggling between that? Was it that you were only booking on the weekends when you were off? But kind of give me an appreciation for that juggling act.
With DAP Entertainment, I had a small team of guys. Of course, I try to keep it in the family, so it would usually be guys who were always in my circle, in the neighborhood guys that I would have brought on board. And while I was working, of course, there's events sometimes that's happening in the daytime.
Right.
You don't want to miss out on that. So in a lot of cases, I would have to source my team to do those events. But it was easy for me to maneuver and juggle with DAP Entertainment, right? It's when now I transition into Zenith HR Solutions, right? So with Zenith HR Solutions coming on stream now, again, you have a lot of corporate entities who would reach out to me for various HR services.
Right.
And that started to become extremely hectic because you have entities who want work done during their work hours.
Right.
But yet still I'm working. So what I would have to do is when everybody is off at 5 o'clock, my days never stop. I still was up 5 to 12. I have another shift, sometime up to 5 in the morning again, because I'm either drafting proposals or working on person's handbook, or trying to prepare a person's final settlements for them. And I'll tell you the truth, Quant, the peak of Zenith HR Solutions came during the pandemic, because at that time a lot of companies wanted to furlough employees.
Right.
So for the medium side, like more smaller companies doing well but don't have an HR presence, it's those companies that were contacting me. Hey, listen, we want to let go these employees, or we want to lay them off. How do we prepare their packages? Because this is something that they never had to do.
Right.
So that became a market, and I was assisting a lot of the smaller companies, some clients. I won't call their names on the show.
Right.
But in drafting letters and having to separate from their employees amicably and within law, of course, because no one wants the employees to go to the labor board and ensure that when you are preparing their final settlements and separation packages, that it's done correctly. So that became another market that I targeted over corporate, and then while still working to the bank.
Right.
So I'm juggling it.
So now you got your 9 to 5 corporate, then you got DAPA, and now you got Zenith, and so now you doing this dance around all of them.
And at the same time, I still love what I do in my 9 to 5 realm.
Right.
Because as long as I'm employed, I have to dedicate the time to that as well.
Right.
Here's where the problem comes in now. On the heels of COVID, we got to return to the office. Amongst not wanting to return to the office, now I have to be in there, but I've already got my clients adjusted to having access to me.
Easy and ready access,
all the time. That became taxing, Quant, and I started to have this conversation with my wife, like, boy, babe, I talked to you about it now.
Yeah.
I was like, Quant, it's coming down now.
Yeah.
It's coming down now, and and going back into the office, but was still able to figure it out, Ethan. So then you second guessing it, like, hold on, I can hold on a little bit longer, because then I had a fire.
Right, I remember that.
So my home burned out.
Right.
And that was a really rough patch. Thanks to people like you and Terry, who was able to, Mike, and my brothers and other close friends, who was able to talk me through that period, because that was a devastating situation. I think it was something that you said. You said, boy, Doc, you got to find the silver lining in this. You saying that, Quando, that's just something to say.
That's just how you be in days, right?
Boom. But, bro, that is what birthed innovative developments.
Right.
Because at the same time I had the fire, I started another rental property.
Right.
I built that, and I did that on my own, just sourcing the various persons to get the project from ground to completion. So that was about 80% completed. Then the fire happened.
Right.
So now I'm like, what? So I took a friend of mine, Terry, actually, he said, Daps, the night of the fire, and he didn't even give me a chance. Him and his wife came, and they packed my bag for me.
Right.
I was like, y'all coming by me, I said, all right, cool, bro, give me a month. I took 3 weeks, Quant, and finished this project, the rental unit. We lived in that. Then we jump on the renovations of the fire. And I tell the wife, I say, babe, listen, ain't no construction company finished this unit. And to be honest with you, ain't no construction company coming in to renovate this unit.
Right.
So what's going to happen is I can create my own construction company. So she say, how? You don't do construction? I say, I don't.
Right.
But the key to that whole company, Ethan, is understanding how to manage people and how to see a project through and how to manage the project.
Right.
That's what I did for years.
I mean, you got a master's in managing people.
Exactly. So the same core crew that I would have used,
right.
I called them together and I said, listen, guys, I have a network. Y'all have a skill. I have a little bit of net worth.
Right.
This is an opportunity that has came before me, and I want to know if you guys want to be a part of it. They were all on board. Instead of them having to now scramble and look for jobs.
Right.
Now I'm going to do that headache and,
they could just focus on the skills that they have, the execution.
That's all.
Yeah.
So I'm managing the payroll. I'm getting the people.
Right.
Human resources, right? I'm going to be dealing with the clients, building these relationships.
Right.
And, bro, that took off within, I would say, 2022. And that's when the challenge now with my 9 to 5 started to buck heads. I loved what I did. The institution did me well, the central bank.
Right.
They provided me with an opportunity that was, of course, in my career trajectory. But I saw where my 9 to 5 was becoming more of a distraction because now I had all of my businesses, for some reason, Ethan, they ticking on one cylinder now.
Right.
Then remember, I just finished a rental unit.
Right.
So now I get rental money coming in.
Right. Laddie-daddy.
You
got that bag.
Yeah. So once all of that started happening, I was like, babe, I said to the wife down, I said, the time is now. And if you don't do it now, I don't know if it'll come back again. And if it's one thing I always told you, Ethan, is I have to try this full time.
Yeah.
I always said that to you.
Yeah.
It's like, Dapper, you just got to do it.
Yeah, just jump, baby. Let's go, baby.
So I made a commitment that, I will give the bank 2022. But 2023, I'm betting on myself.
Yeah.
And I did that, bro. And I can tell you, I hope that it continues this way. But for now, I
right.
Bro.
I mean, just hearing your journey, it's interesting though, Dapper, because my journey was completely different. Like my entrepreneurial journey was completely different, right? The fact that, because I mean, if you look at it, you were running Dapper Entertainment and your corporate job, because I wouldn't even say, you were running a business and had your 9 to 5. At least how long? Like you talking?
Yeah, for a while. At least 10
years.
10 years.
See, and so for me, my entrepreneurial pursuit was like I literally took maybe about a year and a half planning. I had my what they call the aha moment, and I was like, I remember I was at the bank, and I remember it was a liquidity crunch of we were in a liquidity crunch, and the bank regionally needed to pull in 40 million. So regionally being all the banks at the time throughout the Caribbean needed to pull in 40 million. I think my branch target was like 500,000 or something, right, for this period. And I'll never forget, but I brokered 1.7 million, one shot, bop. And I was feeling so good, and I was like, and I'll never forget the manager. They used to call it the Star Award. So I got my little Star Award, and there was this envelope, and I never forget. My manager said, "Oh, Ethan, we really appreciate you. You did it. You went above and beyond, and here's a token of our appreciation." Open up the fucking envelope, babe. There's a $25 meal voucher, Dapper. $25. You can't. This 2006. Yeah. You can't buy no lunch. You definitely can't carry no gal out for lunch with $25.
Nope.
And I remember even prior to that, I had a conversation with one of the guys. He was a top performer in the bank. And I remember he was complaining because he was like, he said he needed an assistant. I mean, top performer, top in sales. And I'll never forget, I was in his office and he was talking about how the bank wouldn't pay for an assistant for him to do like the little grunt work, all the little paperwork so he could focus on the sales. And he said something to me that honestly changed my life. He said, you know what? If I was an independent broker, what I made in the first 3 months, which was about 900,000 that he did, he said I would have carried home about 90 grand by now, right? And no, I lie. Anyway, he said as an independent broker, based on what I made in the first quarter, I would have carried home 90 grand. And I was like, what? And so that was that seed that was planted, right? And so when I brought in that 1.7 million, and I looked at that, and then I said, you know what? When I saw that $25 meal voucher, the first thing I went to, I was like, shit, if I was an independent broker, I would have cleared $17,000 at least on this transaction, right? And so I said, and that's when the clock started ticking. I was like, you know what? I can become a mortgage broker. And literally, it took me, because, I didn't want to just jump out. Like, I had to plan my exit. So literally, I spent the next year and a half, about 15 to 18 months, just researching the business, finding out. Like, I remember the last 3 months I was at the bank, I had my office in Sandy Port. So I was building out my office, and I would go to my office on my lunch break, do my brokerage work, and then come back. Wow. And, eventually, August 2007, I was like, you know what, I'm leaving. And I didn't deliberate long, because I felt confident in my ability, one, but I also took some time to actually build. So it wasn't like an impulse. I didn't take 10 years like you, right. But I wasn't an impulsive thing. And I'll never forget, my manager was actually off. He was on vacation. I go on by his house to drop off my letter. And I'll never forget, he looked me dead in my eye and he said, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, yeah. He said, anyway, you can come looking for your job in 6 months, and I can't guarantee you that it can be there. I was like, whatever, do it. And I go on by. Now, this August 2007. So fast forward 2008, that was one of the mini recessions that we had. Atlanta's laying off thousands of employees. There's a global economic crunch. And that's really what I cut my teeth on in the business, right? And I didn't know any better. While everybody else in the industry was complaining, I was like, well, that's all I know, because I only had 3 months to get my stuff together. But I didn't have that. I have my side hustle, and then I have my main job. It was like, no, I go on into business full time. And that was that. And I shared that story because I think oftentimes when people talk about entrepreneurship, they feel as though I have to do it a certain way, or I have to do it like how this one did it. But the reality is that you got to do it the way that you feel best works for you.
Yeah, and where you at in life as well.
Yep. Now, even while all this, because your wife is full time in her business,
yeah,
right?
So and that's the thing, again, over COVID,
right.
She boy, and it's so crazy, right? Because certain situations will push you to go in the direction that you didn't even thought you would go in. But over COVID, her business shoot up. A Dash of Heaven. It's a custom cake bakery.
The best red velvet cupcakes in the world. I always ordered them.
So, yeah, and she started to go through some frustrations as well on her job, and it started to become a challenge for her, balancing working for the man and running some demanding clients, and then she have her kids.
Right.
So it was a conversation, and I told her, I said, you know what, babe, go.
Yeah.
I got you. You focus on that. You get that running to the point where I don't need to know nothing about it. I don't need nothing from it. I need you to get it running. Go and satisfy your clients. Continue to build this brand bigger than it needs to be built. I'll focus on that part of our house that we need,
right. You would hold it down.
Right. And bro, it was awesome.
Yeah.
She never looked back. It's a different glow about her. She's able to meet her clients' demands even more now. And once she got up and running, bro, I know for certain that I had to be right behind.
Yeah.
And that's something too, Quant. Not everybody could do it, but the one thing, my wife and I always talk about is we wanted our kids to see that, mommy and daddy is building their own legacy. And it's nothing is wrong with if you want your kids to see you going to work every day, right? For someone. Because entrepreneurship isn't for everybody.
Right.
But for our household, that's what we wanted our kids to see.
Yeah.
So even on Saturdays, we go into the store, and that's actually something I got from you, low key, right? We wear our company shirts.
Yeah, man.
Just so that they could see it.
Yeah.
And now, you ask my daughters, well, what's mommy doing? Oh, she's baking the cakes.
Right, right.
What daddy is doing? Oh, he's on the music. They, of course, they don't know what a company.
Right,
they
right,
know
right.
For the devil, right?
Right.
And I'm like, it's daddy do so much other things. Yeah, so that's what we wanted them to see, and like now I could comfortably do that because they'd be like, Daddy, where you going this morning? I gotta do so. I never wanted to tell them I get in the office,
right?
Because that's something me and my wife decided that we wanted them to see. We wanted them to see that we have our own brands,
right?
And yeah, so
that's awesome. Because I grew up, classic Bohemian story. Unfortunately, single mother, but I watched her. Right. And I credit my insane work ethic to her because she had to raise 4 kids by herself. Yeah. Now, my mom was a full-time accountant at a travel agency for years. But when she got into baking, she would bake on the weekends. So she was doing the side hustle thing. And I always wondered, I was like, Mommy, why? I would see what she would pull in Saturday and Sunday, which would be, sometimes 2-3 times her weekly salary at the travel agency. And I was like, why are you still there? Oh, well, it's this security, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until they actually made her position redundant that now, because of circumstance, not choice, circumstance, she had to go full-time in the business. And she was doing it. I mean, of course, it was hard work, but she was working hard all the time. And so, I was always worried because I remember one Mother's Day, my sister bought her this bag, my brother bought her this watch. You know what? I bought my mom business cards with her company name on it and custom invoices, right? Yeah. And she looked at that and she's like, you wear it, boy. But that was because I was always wired for business. I was always looking at ways to improve and run her business more efficiently. But I was always wondering, why didn't you take that step, right? And there was this illusion of this security, right? I don't like going to work every day, but I have that sure, quote unquote, salary coming in, every week or every 2 weeks or every month. And then I listened to my wife who watched her dad build his business, and she recounts stories of, being 4, 5, 6 in the front yard, hosing down, because they have a rental, party rental business in Freeport, and, of her hosing down, the bouncing castles. And so she watched him build this thing from scratch. And so to your point, kids watching, my daughter, we had a conversation just the other day, and she's like, oh, somebody say, Daddy, I didn't realize my English teacher knows you. So she said, well, she was trying to figure out where she knows me from. So she said, what your daddy is doing? She said, oh, well, daddy's doing a lot. Say daddy's doing a lot. Say right now, he has his media company, he has his fitness company, and he's selling luxury real estate. My daughter was always a salesman for me. I remember when I started my brokerage, one thing I say, baby, what your daddy do? She say, I don't know. I say, no, that ain't an acceptable answer. I say, now, if anybody asks you what your daddy do, tell them you was bring 2 people together to make money. Right, that's what I used to do as a broker, right? I bring 2 people together, and that's how I make money. And so for years, and I left. So to give a context, my daughter was born May 2007. And I left August 2007. Brand new, me and my ex-wife were married April 2006. Had my apartments building, and everybody say, boy, you crazy. You crazy. You leaving your good bank job to go talk about this. And, it's just like I bet on myself.
That's the word right there, Quant. When I resigned, you know, and I had a talk with one of the senior managers in the bank, senior, one of the top dogs, you know.
Right.
He called me in, you know, because you got to look at it as you're one of your managers from the human resources team is now leaving the bank.
Right.
He called me in and he was Marcel, what's going on?
Right, right.
And I say, you know, I just taken this time this year to bet on myself.
Right.
And he stepped back in his chair and he was like, he said, you know what, Deangelo, I support that.
Yeah.
He said, I support that.
Yeah.
He said, if you was going to another company, then the conversation might have
been different, right?
But if you're saying you're going to bet on yourself, I support it. And I was like, you know, that's good. I appreciated that.
Now I know from since I met me, he was talking about you fucking going full time. Because I was like, this dude, I know this dude.
Every year, every year you would.
We would have when you going. But I mean, I heard when you said that, you know, really just got to the point where your 9 to 5, your corporate job was a distraction, is actually taking away from your business. Now, like I said, you know, I think your situation is a bit unique because it ain't like you got one business that you had while balancing. You know, you got 3 different businesses plus supporting your wife's business. And so my question to you, Dafa, is when you made that decision, like what was your mental state? Like, did you have, because I mean, one of the first things that, and I think you kind of answered it. One of my first questions would be, why did it take you so long to go full time?
Yeah.
Like, why did it take you so long to finally say, you know what, I can bet on myself while you were having so much successes in the businesses in any event?
And you know what, Quant, I wouldn't even try to give you a long, drawn-out answer. And I'll just be honest, because I hear a lot of podcasts where persons are asked the same question and they all about, it was fair. It was fair.
Right.
Because it may sound coward, right?
Right.
But it was fair, right?
No,
and the reality is, you know, every 2 weeks or every month, you got a salary coming.
Yeah.
You know, you have a mortgage. You got 2 kids.
Yeah.
School fee. And you know business. Up, down. It's a roller coaster, right? But you're sure the salary get hit every month, right?
Right.
And it was fair. But how did that change, right? Then I started last year, year before. Every year I try to dedicate my life and journey to something. Year before last, I said, you know what, this is the year of building relationships.
Right.
And that year made big strides for last year.
Right.
And I'm seeing the real fruits of that labor first quarter this year.
Yeah.
Relationships. To the point where at the end of last quarter, the end of last year, I know I was in a position to walk away.
Yeah.
Happily.
That's so
Financially, because when you start to see your business making X dollars, Quant, versus what you're now making on the 9 to 5, then you start to think, hold on though, what if I really put my all into this?
Go all in.
You know what I'm saying? And
right.
That's always a question, but
yeah.
when you start to look at the numbers and you run in the numbers, doing your financials, it's like, whoa, now Deangelo, you playing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's at that moment I said, it's time to bet on yourself, my brother.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So now you made that decision, and you said, you know what, I putting it in, right? And honestly, I think, that's real talk. Like, I mean, fair is a real thing, right? Yeah. I like to look at fair as fuel too, right? And I kind of flip that, right? People think that, courage is acting in the absence of fear, but it's actually acting in spite of fear. Like, I am fearful for whatever, but I'm going to act anyway, and that's true courage, right? And so I don't, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the fear was eliminated when you moved, but what changed? Because you said, it did change, but like, I mean, I do shit all the time, even in my business. I've been an entrepreneur now 17 years, right? 16 years. And I'm still fearful
right.
in
But
certain
it's a different
situations.
fear now.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I welcome the fear of, like, now that I'm in the business full time, right? If I do, when I feel that, okay, I'm scared, that's good. Now I want to go at that more.
Yeah.
Like, now I need to attack that, you know. And I'm realizing that when you attack that, you either learn or you win.
Yeah.
There ain't no losing at this point no more. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I see it.
Now, boy, because this can, and I know I'm gonna have to have you back because I want to follow your entrepreneurial journey. Like, I mean, your full-time entrepreneurial journey. Because, like you said, you know, for years, you know, well over a decade, you've been a business owner. And I think that's awesome too, because you built out your team, and then you moved into full time, as opposed to a lot of people move full time, do the solo thing, and then they build out their team, which is pretty similar to what I did. But talk to me now about what were some challenges, right? Fear is something that we recognize, it's still there. But what were some immediate challenges? You know, you made this thing, like, after you gave in your letter, you wake up the next day and, like, I don't have to get up and go to work no more. Like, what was that like for you?
So for me, now I free. I got a whole 8 hours now, right? But to be honest with you, I had to decide what I'm going to keep. One of those things, Quant, would have been my wellness, my physical, you know, working out, exercising.
Right.
That's something that's critical for me, right? And it actually helps me in business. That's the only time in the day that I have for me, Ethan, that I could think, clear my mind, and that's my woosah moment. The second thing now, and I'm still figuring this out, I don't have all of those answers, right? The second thing is now I'm engulfing myself more into my businesses, my businesses, right? So especially from the construction standpoint, because throughout the day I'm at work, but that's where my guys are working.
Right.
So now I only can pop in and pop out. Now I'm there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now I'm there. And I think it helps the guys more. I'm able to provide strong support and answers to my clients.
Right.
They asking me things. And in a lot of cases when I was at work, I got, let me call it back.
Yeah.
No, but I'm there now. So I know what's going on every step of the way. Right? And those things are still growing. I'm certain that I'm going to run up on some growing pains, because while I've been at it for a while, I'm still a baby.
Right.
So I may even have to call on you, Quant. And you know I call you all the time.
Like, you know, I hear. You know, there's one phone we can get answer.
But I'll tell you this though. One of the things that I've picked up, right, is reading, bro. I read a lot now, and I sort of beat myself up and kick myself because some of the things that I'm reading, if I had started to read, a couple of years, well, I'd have been through this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things. All right, Rich Dad Poor Dad. You read that?
Of course.
All right, cool. So as I read that book, I'm like, yo, this me. Like, I've been doing this though. And it all makes sense, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, like, you've been on that path, Deangelo. You just never bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then it brings me some relief to know, okay, so you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So continue to do this. Continue to enhance that and surround yourself with like-minded persons.
Yeah.
And that's very important, too, as I transition into this journey. A lot of my friends are still part of corporate. I love them. I'm not telling them to change.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own, journey to run. But while they're still my friends, I have to surround myself with persons who are in this entrepreneurial world, who can understand where I want to go.
Yeah.
Because what I may say to Ethan, this is what I'm trying to do. You saying, do it that way. The safe friend.
Yeah.
Say, oh, you sure you want to take that route?
That's a big risk.
That's a big risk, And I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for them to change that. It's something that I know now I have to work on. And sometimes, what I do realize is get lonely in the daytime.
Yeah.
Me and my wife in the house, and either key is going or pans clinking.
Yeah. something's cooking. Something cooking. It's interesting because and I would say, I think my thinking about my network has evolved over the last, I'll probably call it 3 years, right? Because before I was exactly, I said the same thing. You know what? I want to surround myself with like-minded people, right? People who could appreciate and relate to what it is, i.e. other entrepreneurs. But at the beginning of last year, because like I said, I've been in my businesses I've been, a business owner for the last 16 years. I've done 6 figures in multiple businesses across multiple industries. Right. And so I am very confident in my ability to take a brand or a business from 0 to 6 figures, 15 to 18 months, like no bullshit. Like the first time my wife was making 6 figures was when she moved here with me. Like like I know how to do that. But, and a lot of my network, and it's a very small one, but even though they're entrepreneurs, a lot of them are still coming to me, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? Because they hadn't seen, that 6-figure brand building or that 6-figure business building. So I would still, of course, I share what I got, right? Because that's my whole thing, but how can I add value to people?
Right.
And so at the beginning of last year, I was like, you know what? I need to be more intentional about expanding my inner circle, not necessarily changing them, because your day ones can be your day ones, but I need to surround myself regularly with people who ain't even like mine, but people who are where I want to be. Yeah. And so these are people who, and so literally I told my wife at the beginning of 2022, I said, I want to get at least 5 millionaires that I can have relationships with, who are successful in business, who I can call on. And it ain't like, hey, slip me one slow 600 grand. It's like, I want to be able to bounce things off of people who are aware and who have already traveled the road that I am traveling, right? Yeah. So that ain't even, to me, a like mine, because in my mind, like mine is we all in the same boat, so we having the same experiences. But for me, I wanted somebody, and I don't really call them mentors. Like I have relationships with these people, and I can tell you that since doing that, like it's just like it really blows my mind, because you get so much insight from these people, because you think but you only know based on the limitations of your experiences. You only know what you know. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And the more you know, the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know shit, right? Oh, and so I was very intentional about that. I ended the year with 7 millionaires, right? Like multimillionaires across a diverse selection of industries. Some of them made their money. Some of them, inherited their money. They inherited, generational wealth. They G3, G4. But that also gave me an appreciation for the fact that I want to be a millionaire. Like I have a target. I want to hit 5 million across all my businesses this year, right? That gave me an appreciation for, even though this a millionaire, that's a millionaire, that's a millionaire, their mindsets, their methodology is all different. But the common thing is that, dude, you just gotta fucking go. Like you have to act, you have to move, right? You can't expect to want things, and you got to put in the work. Like that's one of the common traits among all of them. But all of them have their little, this is the way that they do things. And what I've been able to do is kind of take from this one, take from that one, take from that one, take from that one. And now I'm forming my own path while I have an appreciation for all of their 7. But it's like, okay, well, I am a firm believer in, yes, of course, reading, but also reaching out to people who are where you want to be, right? And, I say there are some people I can't take business advice from you because you ain't even doing as good as me. Yeah, that's you ain't even in business. Real. Now, you may be good, a good technician, because, and I'm sure your wife could attest to this, being able to bake a good cake is a hell of a lot different than running a bakery. So I like that. Dapper, what I want to ask you right now is because you made that jump, right? You pull the trigger, you bet on yourself, right? What would you tell somebody who is where you were maybe 2-3 years ago, right? Maybe not even that advanced because you were making money in business. You were a business owner even though you had your full corporate job. But there's somebody that says, you know what? Maybe I'm in the same boat. You know, I have my side hustle, the thing that I'm passionate about, the thing that I do on the weekend. It is making me money, but I love the security because I got a mortgage, because I got expenses, because I got, you know, financial obligations that I got to meet. But you know, they are contemplating, they're on that fence, that proverbial fence of whether or not they should go full-time in their business, right? What would you say to that person, or what advice would you give that person who was where you were, say maybe, you know, 2.5, 3 years ago?
Yeah, boy, Quant. And it's no right or wrong answer to that, right? But I'd say this. They have to determine, Quant, how bad they want it. You know, if they really want it, then, like you always say, you gotta jump. You just gotta jump. And I'll say this too, because, you know, even before jumping, you have to, you know, scope it out. Understand where is it. When I jump today, where do I intend to be in 3 months? Where do I intend to be in 6 months?
Right.
How do I intend on being there? Right? And that's the good part. And then you also have to look at what's worst case scenario and how are you able to counteract that.
Right.
Until you could, you know, catch yourself. But the reality is, you gotta jump.
Yeah.
It ain't, you know, and that's why it took me 10 years too, because I constantly was searching for what is the right time? How does it look?
Yeah.
And now I can say that you ain't gonna find. You could ask a million people. You have to determine when you're gonna jump, what you're gonna do when you jump, and how it's gonna look for you.
Next question. Now you said one of the reasons it took you so long was simply fear, right?
Yeah.
Like you were afraid, right? What were some of the fears that you had that prevented you from jumping sooner? And what are some of the fears that you have now that you have already jumped?
So, all right. Early on, it was, okay, you know, I have a daughter now. When I had my first child, you know, I can't just leave my good paying job and unable to sustain her financially. And now, boom, I got a house now. I got my apartments now. I can't miss mortgage payments. Then.
Right.
Take my house, and I ain't gonna be able to live with my daughter. And then I married the woman.
Right.
Now I got to take care of this woman, a child, and ensure that I always have a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
Then, silly me, gonna have another child. So it just keep getting worse, right? And then, but now, so that was the early phase. It's all about my family.
Right.
It will always be about my family, right? But now, I've put so many things in place, even, to where sustaining them financially, it's an engine running on its own.
Right. So that ain't the fear no more.
That ain't the fear no more.
So what's the fear now?
The fear now is, and I was just talking to the wife about this, setting a goal that I can't reach. Because every time I set these goals, bro, I hit them.
Yeah.
So like, all right, like you said, 7 figures, right?
Right.
5 million across 3 businesses.
Right.
Boy, Dom, you want to set that goal? Because if I hit that, that's going to be a scary situation.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there now, and I want to get to that place. I may be, you know, and hearing you saying that is motivation, because I may need to set that goal for myself as well, you know. But this is the first year, quote unquote, officially out here. I give me a figure, Quant. Let me see if I can.
No, man, you gotta come. See, here's the thing, right? This is what I tell. And this is what my one of my millionaire mentors told me, right? One of the guys told me, because my whole thing is I just want to hit 7, right? I was like, I'd get him for $1 million. He said, but you realize the first penny you spend out of that $1 million, you are no longer at 7 figures, right? And so I was like, all right, well, I can do 3.
Right.
And then he's like, all right, 3 sounds good. but if you do 3, might as well go for 5.
5.
And I was like, fuck it, I can go for 5. And then I was like, yeah, all right, I go on for 5. And then the dude can say, now how the fuck you can get that 5 million? And so in my mind, I was like, all right, well, that's the 5 million in sales, pop, pop, pop. But this dude broke it down for me. He said, you need to get granular. Just setting the goal ain't enough. And I know this stuff from fitness and all that. You want to have your SMART goals. You want to be specific, measurable, and all that good shit, right? But when I saw it in real time, he said, and that's why I said it's so important to surround yourself and have access to people who are further ahead than you. And this dude ain't like 10, 20 steps ahead of me. Like, he said, you know what? When I was looking at this 3 years ago, this is what I did. He said, now he has, his businesses, I think, do maybe about 20 million a year now. He trying to get to 100. Like, I'm like, I just trying to get to 5, right? But he trying to get to 100. But he was like, you know what? One of the things is, he said, you need to break it down, right? Off of each employee, how many employees? Well, he asked me, how many employees do you need to get to 5 million? I said, I don't know. Right. He said, how much camera you docking media? How much cameras you need to get 5 million? Like, how many buses? You got your little bus, but how many buses you need? And so what that did, it really cost me to break down. And I was like, he said, well, if you think about it, if each employee should be able to generate 200,000 for you, right? You're trying to get to 5 million, you need 25 employees. Right. Okay, Bob, I got that. But now where you can put 25 employees. So now you need premises, right? You need equipment for these people. You need this. So this even, building out the business operation of a $5 million entity. But I wasn't thinking like that. I was just like, 5 million, that means I just got to go there and sell. But you ain't thinking about the machine and the operation that's required to build a $5 million company, a $10 million company, $15 million company.
But I have a question for you, Quant.
So, this is my show. I asking you the questions.
Yeah, but you said something. I have to ask you this because you asked me what is a fair of mine, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been such a good friend of mine, and watching your journey as well. I know of the various ventures that you have, right?
Right.
Media now has become the forerunner.
Yeah.
So, my 3 ventures.
Right.
My fear is, Quant, putting the focus on one and losing traction on the others.
Right.
Now that I'm out here, because let's say for innovative developments, that's what's making, let's say that's the head honcho right now.
Right.
It's easy for us because at the end of the day, the goal is to make money, right?
Right.
This is where the money is running. This is where I'm at. But, we don't want the other 2 companies to lose its value.
Right.
How do you handle that?
So that's actually,
that's a fair.
So that's actually something that I'm navigating right now, right? And the main thing is team, right? Who is your team, right? And one of the things that I'm learning now, and especially with my media company, because I love media, and the reason I started my media company was so that I could really churn out endless content for my other businesses and my wife's brand. But what it is who is your team, and have you identified that person who could pull point? Like, who is your second in command? Because Grant Cardone says, everybody ain't got to be number 1. Sometimes, really, you could be a solid number 2 and still get the benefits and the access and this, that, and next to the number 1. So right now, fortunately enough for me, I have my media company. I have my fitness, like everything falls under my personal brand. So it doesn't detract from one. And the thing is, honestly, but I just don't stop fucking working. Time, like I don't stop working. But honestly, that's something that I'm navigating now. It isn't so much a fear. It's like, okay, well, how can I get the people in place so that I can now start managing systems and people as opposed to individual jobs? Like, I know what my strong point is. My strong point is sales. But I'm trying to, with the media company, I'm literally right now actively building out my production team so that I don't have to be on set. So that means investing in human resources, right? That means investing in people who could do the things that it ain't so much that you don't want to do, but what is the highest and best use of my time right now? The highest and best use of my time is not to edit videos. I can and I do, but my time could be better spent acquiring new clients.
Right.
You know, and so honestly, boy, that's something that I'm working on now. But what I have been able to do successfully, because the real estate aspect is something that I recently got into. The fitness aspect, I recently revived that because the wife and I have a management company. We manage private fitness centers. Okay. And so one of the things that I did was I dissolved my fitness company and I consolidated that under my wife's company because she's full-time in fitness. So I have that person, that partner in the fitness business who is my wife. So I can still participate in the business operations, but she is responsible for certain things. Yeah. And so where I can come in, bop. And so I still have my love of fitness. I mean, even down to training, but I still have that as a part of my portfolio, but that isn't something that I'm driving every day. Like I have somebody who drives that because I just consolidated with her brand. So I'm bringing value from Elite Wellness Solutions to Bowflex Bobby Fitness. And listen, this is how I grew my fitness business in corporate to 6 figures. So let's, start doing that, Bob. I'm in that same process now where I'm building out my team. I have my rider, I have my right hand, and now I'm actually building out the team for the media to support her so that she can take a more leadership role so that I can now not have to worry about the business operations and being able to satisfy clients, but I could go to what I'm best at, which is sales. And real estate is all sales. Yeah. And so it's like I'm still slowly making my way towards what is the best thing for me. And so it's just identifying people who can, like identifying and building out your team to the point where you ain't have to be there. Yeah. Yeah. And not only don't you have to be there, but it's actually running better if you ain't there every day. You see? Because you should be able to have quality people. I know with me, like, I do what works. I ain't gonna veer too much and try to do too much experimentation. I know what works. I don't consider myself a creative, even though I work in the creative space. And so having that other person to bounce stuff off of in the space who is just as invested in the success of the company as you are, it helps a lot. But honestly, like I said, as far as, the whole navigating and not, I wouldn't even say that's a fear of mine, because I have individual targets for each to make it to 5 million. So it isn't, I want each one of my entities to do 5 million, but I know, okay, well, from real estate, I should be able to do X. From fitness, I should be able to do X. And from things. So one of the things is that how do I, and this is something I'm literally doing now, I set individual financial targets for each. And now is, okay, well, I want X amount from fitness, X amount from my business, and X amount from my real estate. And I have successfully been able to generate income from each one of those. And now it's like, okay, well, now I'm focusing on scaling by acquiring the human resources and the human capital that will enable me to do that. And so I don't have to do everything myself. So at that point, it's just all right, this is what we're doing. I have the strategic mind. I have the sales mind. So let's do this, bop. And then the business operations could actually run itself, because you have somebody doing that. Grant Cardone says, sales is senior to operations. And so I want to get back to focusing on the sales aspect simply because, one, that's what I'm strongest at. And then two, my business operation, the stuff with my right hand is with my media person is be doing. She's be pushing out more better stuff than me. I can push out good stuff, but it's like, I didn't think about that. So she is actually better suited to be able to take that on. But like I said, it's just about now how do I, one, encourage her, feed her, get her skill level up so that she can do everything. So that's the goal. It's like I find somebody who can duplicate my efforts in each entity so that I can focus on other things? And then how do I now build a team that supports them so that they can be more effective at what it is that they do?
Yeah, that makes sense. A friend of mine told me the same. Michael.
Yeah.
Mike. He
Mike Bad.
Mike is.
Yeah.
I pick his brain a lot.
Yeah.
And he said something similar to me as well. But that was like you said. What is a fair? That was something that came across my mind.
Yeah. But man, listen, I do appreciate you taking time out to chat with me. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate that. But for those who may want to get in contact with you, I want you to kind of look at that camera right there, drop all of your handles, how to people, and let them know what if you need. So everything.
So if you need anything relative to human resources, consultation, or any HR service with any HR function, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Zenith, Zenith, Zenith HR Solutions. For entertainment services, lighting, audio, production, LED lighting, theatrics, you can contact us on Facebook and Instagram at DAPA, D-A-P-A, Entertainment. And for home renovations, post-construction or commercial cleaning, you can contact us on Instagram at Innovative Developments. And I got to shout out the wife. You can't.
No, boy, that's your business. That's your household, boy.
Best cakes in the world. You want to shout out a Facebook and Instagram, A Dash of Heaven, custom cakes. And if you need rentals, right? You can find us on Airbnb, Destiny Escapes and Dynasty Escapes. Some of the prettiest, cleanest, comfy, coziest rentals you get in Nassau.
My boy doing it all. I ain't mad at that. Yo, all right. So guys, so everybody who is listening to this podcast, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on your favorite podcast platform, I'm sure, please leave in the comments if you received some value from this conversation. I think it was very important to have my good friend Deangelo on the show so that we can talk, because he is new to the full-time entrepreneurship journey, and so being able to get his insight. So if you are on the fence, you are thinking, I'm sure you would have gotten some value. If you want to get anything specific, leave in the comments, but please share this with anybody and everybody that you think this can add value to. And as always, I do hope that we were able to add some value to you on your journey towards becoming your best self, on your journey towards building your life by design. And so until next episode, peace.
Peace.